Did Mark Carney just play Danielle Smith, Pierre Poilievre, Alberta separatists, and Big Oil in one fell swoop? Let's see if Carney is playing some kind of 3D chess here. I'm Steve Sandford, you're watching Dominion Report. So the Alberta government and the federal government have just signed a memorandum of understanding about a new pipeline to the west coast. In the days and weeks before this announcement, there was much discussion and speculation, but I think we all knew it was coming, even if we didn't know the details. Carney actually let slip that it was coming. He let it slip a couple of weeks ago, and that was either an oops on his part or a purposeful signal made to look like an oops. You might have seen the video I did about this. So during all of the lead up, I really struggled to understand why Carney was even entertaining the idea of a new pipeline. Estimates put construction costs at somewhere between 20 and 35 billion dollars. And surely Carney's read the International Energy Agency's prediction of world peak oil demand by 2030. Okay, so minor side quest here, and this is because I know I'm going to get comments on this, and it's also important to understanding this whole MOU. Oil is the blockbuster video of energy tech. Shipping it around the world is kind of like taking your VHS tape home and returning it the next day. Clean energy is not a commodity, it's a technology. It's like Netflix. I have a whole video on peak oil demand. I'll put the link below. And if you want to comment here, I'll just invite you to watch that video first and then go ahead and comment. So the IEA has made this prediction, and I'll throw a graphic up here on the screen, but I need to get to the main story, so it's only going to be here for a little short while. And if you want to study the details, just hit pause in the video, and while it's paused, you can go ahead and comment and let me know what you think. This was the confusion that I was experiencing with Carney and his MOU. Why would a pro-environment economist sign up to support a pipeline that is counter to environmental causes and also makes zero financial sense? Well, there's really only two options here. Either one, I'm wrong about peak oil demand and there is a financial case for the pipeline, and in this scenario, Carney would have to set aside his support for environmental causes. Or two, there's something else happening here, maybe more than meets the eye and something that's not totally obvious. And by the way, I'm the first person to say that if I go ahead and pick two, I'm at risk of allowing my own confirmation bias to push me away from Occam's razor answer and toward more of a conspiracy theory answer. I'll let you decide if that's the case, but just know that I do believe vaccines are safe and effective. I believe humans walked on the moon, and that Paul McCartney is still alive, so there is that. I can't actually answer with certainty which of the two options is correct, but I can give you my opinion, and I think you know where I'm leaning. But just to provide a little more context to this announcement, let's talk about one of the big issues that Carney is facing. And that is, in general, opposition from Danielle Smith and the historical battles between Alberta UCP and the federal Liberals. One of the things that the UCP has been doing is stoking the Alberta separation sentiment. They're essentially copying strategies that Quebec has used historically to get favorable treatment from Ottawa by threatening to leave the Dominion. Of course, foreign influence campaigns have also been pushing that message, which is, I guess, convenient for Smith and the UCP. Perhaps you saw the video I did covering the very foreign influence that I experienced right here on the channel. Now, never mind that it would be financially ruinous for Alberta if they were to actually go it alone. The average pro-separation Alberta voter probably doesn't believe this. Smith and the UCP probably do know this, but they have been playing a bit of a dangerous game here, taking advantage of that sentiment, even fostering the sentiment for their own political gain. But it comes at the cost of endangering democracy by the spread of political misinformation. Carney would certainly want to combat this. And of course, all of this whole scenario puts Pierre Poilievre in a bit of a difficult spot. Remember, he was born in Calgary and raised in Calgary, and he also recently was elected to an Alberta riding in a by-election, and he's been hesitant to speak out, at least loudly, against Alberta separation movement, probably because those voters tend to vote conservative in federal elections. Actually, when you think about it, Poilievre isn't behaving very Canada first on this issue, is he? Hashtag just saying. Now, that aside, Poilievre's made a career out of opposing and degrading whatever the Liberals do, which, I mean, it's his job. He is the leader of the opposition. And when Justin Trudeau put a moratorium on new oil drilling and new pipelines, It gave Poilievre plenty of fodder, and fodder that allowed the Alberta UCP party and Alberta separatist movement to agree with him. But now it's not Trudeau, it's Carney. And he has just agreed to help support a new pipeline. And that means he caved, right? Well, maybe not. To understand that, we need to dig a bit into the MOU itself. So the MOU agrees in principle to allow a privately financed bitumen pipeline to be built from Alberta to the West Coast. It'll target about 1 million barrels, or I think it said at least 1 million barrels a day. But did you catch the words that I said there? Privately financed. So this is an important part. The federal government has not committed money to this project. The money needs to come from industry. Okay, so what else is in the MOU? Well, for starters, there's an agreement that Alberta will strengthen its electricity grid, and that includes stronger transition ties to BC and Saskatchewan, which of course fits with Carney's stated goal of connecting all grids across the country. Further, Alberta will use financial incentives to encourage the development of data centers. We're talking AI processing here. This requires huge banks of computers and a lot of power. Part of that will ensure access to data processing for Canada's strategic purposes. So now this includes a national defense component. Alberta also commits to develop a nuclear power generation strategy and commits to nuclear power production within 25 years, which they're probably going to need as oil becomes more expensive and less profitable. The MOU also requires Alberta to participate in and grow the carbon capture incentive program. So what does the federal government commit to? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to hold off on the planned implementation of the oil and gas emissions cap. Now, they didn't actually say they're going to cancel it. They said they would hold off. So if the pipeline doesn't go ahead, maybe it could be implemented at a later date. Who knows? The feds will also cancel the clean electricity regulations in Alberta to be replaced with a new carbon pricing agreement to be negotiated by both parties. That sounds a bit vague to me and maybe could develop into a future sticking point, so let's put a pin in that one for later. They will review the oil tanker moratorium on the West Coast. No commitments to revise it or remove it, but at least there'll be a discussion. And they will allow for the pipeline project to apply for major project status under the Build Canada Act. This cuts significant red tape, allows a single point of contact for project managers to get things like approvals. There's also numerous references in the MOU about consultation with Indigenous people and organizations and to enable Indigenous ownership of portions of the pipeline. Nowhere in the MOU is a guarantee that the pipeline will be built. And again, nowhere do the feds commit any money. Carney basically got a whole bunch of his agenda in place by agreeing to greenlight this pipeline project. And by signaling this, Carney has pretty much crushed a major federal conservative talking point. He's also undermined the Alberta separatist movement, as one of their major grievances was the pipeline moratorium. And this part is key. The MOU describes the pipeline as privately financed, industry-led, and provincially championed. So Carney has given Smith the lead on this project for her province, which means she is responsible for taking it to industry and raising the money. Unlike the government, corporations need to make a profit. So they're not going to throw 20 or 25 or $30 billion at a pipeline unless they know that it's going to pay for itself. And this circles us back to the world's peak oil demand. And if you believe what the International Energy Agency tells us, $20 or $30 billion pipeline will not be constructed in time to operate long enough to pay for itself before peak oil demand crushes Alberta's oil industry. So for me, corporations are simply not going to pony up that kind of money. And for me, this pipeline will never actually happen. And also for me, Carney knows that this pipeline will never actually happen. And when it doesn't happen, it will be Danielle Smith's fault. The separatist Alberta voter will be angry at Smith and the UCP and perhaps abandon her for a populist right-wing party. I should say, actually, an even more populist, even more right-wing party. And Carney did all this for very little spent in the way of his own political capital. So let's wrap this whole thing up with a summary and tie it all together with a bow. This is one MOU. It's just 6 pages long. And with it, Carney has undermined a major federal conservative talking point. He's got Danielle Smith to play nice in the sandbox and to agree to some important energy infrastructure projects unrelated to oil. And he silenced a major grievance that feeds the Alberta separation movement. And he set the whole thing up in a way that when it fails, it will be Smith who takes the blame, potentially splitting the right-wing vote in the next Alberta provincial election. Carney didn't say yes to a pipeline. He said yes to letting Alberta try to build a pipeline. And with Alberta's political capital, and with Alberta finding the funding, and with the stopwatch set against declining oil demand. So I'm going to say yes, this is some 3D chess indeed. Friends, I want to thank you for joining me. We're building something special with this community. We're just about to achieve 5,000 subscribers, and it's my goal to make this my full-time job. And when I do that, I'll be able to triple or quadruple my video production so that I can cover all of the important issues. And to that end, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe and comment and to watch more of my videos. And all of that helps the YouTube algorithm show this content to more people who need to see it. And if you're willing to sign up as a member, which costs less than a cup of coffee per month, that really helps us get closer to that goal. And I truly appreciate all of your support.